course. Chloe, as you age, you begin to lose abilities. One of them is the ability to hear well.
Okay, so I was watching your videos of last night.
Chloe, one of the things you lose as you get older.
You said something about, it was in the self-knowledge video, you said something about you want to make a change in your life if your body's supported. I just don't know what you said about that. What does it mean that your body should be supported?
That's a great question. Okay, so the first thing to tackle is your body. Okay, anyone else?
I wrote also in the same video, I wrote a question where I read about a quote before that awareness can be like maybe has some positive effects and negative effects. So I want to know what's the negative effects of awareness.
Okay, awareness, negative, positive, physical life. Anything else?
What about narcissism?
Talk about that.
They're not.
Oh, I thought you said narcissism.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No, listen, they're both the same. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, narcissism and religion and the way they intersect.
Okay. Well, you guys think this is Costco? You can ask any questions and there's an answer for it. Anyone else? Bijan, anything?
None that I can think of right
Okay. Mauricio, you've had your cookie, you've had your drink. Nothing? Oh, useless. So change in physical body, Gnosticism, awareness, and the awful things it creates. That's it? And of course, what was your question?
This was asking about the intersection between religion and narcissism.
Okay. So let's talk about change and not so much your fellow, not so much your physical. Yeah, Chloe, you. Yeah. Change in your physical life. So first, let's talk about change. And then let's talk about what are the important components you need to have in order for that change to survive. I've been a social drinker most of my life. I started when I was maybe 6 or 7. A little vodka here, a little whiskey there. A pint here, a couple pints there. And by the time I was 7, I was a pro. Then I got married at the age of 15. I also met my wife in a bar. And my parents kept telling me that I'm slowly becoming an alcoholic, but I said, no, that can't be me. I'm a philosopher. I get drunk of ideas, not alcohol. once in a while I would catch myself, the awareness that Noor was talking about, only to realize that it's far too painful to have a self-image of myself as a drunk, as someone whose value is just ultimately rooted in alcohol and how much he or she drinks. It was too much to bear, so I would, as Freud would say, repress the idea or push it away so I don't see it. And that would create a good amount of comfort. I could go on drinking. There were moments where the pangs of awareness would just hit me and it was too much. So I drank some more to kind of be completely forgetful of the fact that I'm just an idiot. And so even though once in a while I would ask myself, should I change? The question, the desire, the need for it was not very intense. And as long as you don't really have the need, and need is something that has a good amount of emotions in it, as long as there are no needs in it, as long as it's just an intellectual concept, change is good. Communism is good. Being a Christian is good. Being a student is good. As long as they live out there, it's not a problem. And then my first marriage fell apart. She could no longer endure my abuse. I wasn't verbally abusive or emotionally or physically. I'm sort of passive, so when I got really, really drunk, I would just go into my bedroom and just cry for hours. And then when it come out, my wife would say, "Have you cried?" I say, "Yes, I was praying to God." I pretended to be very religious or Gnostic. When she left me, I blamed her for not being patient, for not being compassionate, for not being generous. And I told her that she's no longer a Christian because she doesn't have the Christian qualities. You know, she needs to be compassionate and forgiving and all that. You know, so I could abuse her some more. So after I healed, you know, I'm a nice man, went out and found myself another woman. We got married after a few weeks. And, you know, that's what alcoholics do. We are compulsive in many ways. So after a few weeks, we got married. I made sure that she was a Christian so she could endure abuse, you know. You slap the right cheek, she offers the left. So I abused her as well for many, many years, and every time she threw a temper tantrum, I told her she's unchristian. She's unforgiving, she lacks compassion, forgiveness, all that stuff. And so she read the Bible more so I could abuse her more. And I did. Eventually she got fed up and she left me. I wanted to change, but it was too much. It was too much for me to look at all the kind of living components inside me that will push me towards alcohol addiction, the way I was, my past. Too much. And, you know, human beings are social animals, so I found friends who were just like me. Married twice, thrice. They would drink and smoke. They would do UFC, because when you drink a lot, you're also somewhat aggressive on the inside. And some people express it outwardly as well. So, and you know, I had built this highway inside my emotions, inside my psyche, inside my intellect. We call it habit. And I would do the same thing. I would do the same thing over and over and over again, every single day, for a long, long time, until the second wife left me. Long story short, the third marriage, the same way, fourth, the same way, fifth, the same way. And something happens to you when you get a little older. You know, when you're young, you can just live in trash. And it's okay. You know, you can categorize yourself as a hippie. And that's fine as well. It's something to be proud of, I suppose. There comes a point that you age a little. Your knees, your back, your shoulders, you begin to forget. You can't hear as well. Once in a while, your body says, don't drink so much, you know, because you end up in the emergency room a few times and they have to pump your stomach. Good morning, V. How are you? Good, thank you. And so at the age of 57, when my fifth wife left me, I was far too old to go out there and just party. I was too old to be an idiot. It wasn't that I couldn't do those things. I just couldn't stand myself anymore. And that's the thing you need to understand. Hello. That when you're 20, you can, I suppose, look at all the trash inside you and be perfectly fine in thinking it's not going to impact you. And if it does, you have ways to overcome them. But when you play the same game and the conclusion of every game you play is loss, at a certain point in your life, there's no longer escape route. You get stuck. So for the first time, all the trash that lives inside you, they come to the surface. You know, like when you throw up, things come out of your nose, out of your butt, out of your mouth, out of your eyes. You can no longer look the other way. You become aware, and it sickens you. I mean, it's great that you've vomited up all the stuff, but what the hell do you do with it? From one perspective, it's a very liberating experience. From another perspective, it's an experience that creates so much anger and hatred for yourself, for other people. And then I said to myself, maybe I should find a way to change. And it wasn't a passing thing this time. I was very serious about it because I was getting old and I had all these physical issues. I'm tired now. So there are a couple of things. All of us in this class at times see certain things about ourselves we don't like and we want to change. But for various reasons, there are escape routes. You're young, you're distracted, your plate is too full. Maybe you're just not in the right place in life. So that desire for change is just that. It's just a simple desire, you know. It's like lust, but since you don't have the resources, you don't pursue it. And after a while, it just goes away. So at a certain stage in our life, the desire for change is abstract. We just go around and talk about it. There comes a point where change becomes something very, very practical and very, very real and very, very painful because now you see too much. And now you don't have the luxury of time, of energy, of youth. So for any of us in this class who desire to, make some changes, Cookie? We fall into two categories. The first one is abstract. You can still kind of live with all the awful things that live within, or there comes a point where it's too much now. You can't escape it. With the practical aspect of change, you have emotions that you didn't have when things were abstract. There are lots of people in Berkeley who talk about communism and socialism. Get to know them a little well, and you realize that they have a property here and a property there, and a few millions in the bank account. But they like talking about communism and freedom and equality and all that. So the real change is when you begin to see things, and that's painful. Now let me tell you a story. Okay, Chloe? Are you bored? Good job. We had a relative. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He's my Palestinian friend.
No, Tunisian.
Okay. I was just joking.
Oh,
It's all the same.
All the same. I surprised me when you complained. This particular friend was Persian. He was married to an American. It's not bad. They're nice people. A little superficial, but nice people nevertheless. And it's not that they choose to be superficial, it's just culture. It's young. And so when they met at CSU Sacramento. They drank, they partied. And everyone told him not to get married to this woman, but traditional guilt, cultural guilt, so he got married. And this is the 1980s. He's making about $300,000 a year. 1980s, Chloe. Can you even fathom that? That's like 5 million in current currency. And every time he would get his paycheck, his wife would go to Sears and J.C. Penney's and Macy's. And way back then, I think it was Shop Network or Shop something Network. And she would order all sorts of things, like dolls, each like $500, $600, $700. And they would fight once in a while, but he would tolerate. He was a Christian. He allowed his cheeks to be slapped repeatedly, and he had the capacity to forgive. And then they had a child, a young little boy, and he started giving this tiny little kid wine to drink at the age of 1. And when we told him, "What the hell are you doing?" he would say, "Oh, it's just grape juice." And then he would tell us the mythological figure Dionysus, one of the deities in the Greek world, that wine is in fact a sacred liquid. It should be drank by everyone. So anyways, we tried to convince him that he's a bit too young, but he wouldn't listen. So 3, 4, 5 years of drinking, this kid, he had ulcer by the time he was 6. Around the age 37, 38, he met this man. Bushy mustache, he had a Persian market. And I guess in a matter of maybe a week, everything about him began to change. He didn't want to drink anymore. He didn't want to give his life to AT&T anymore. He didn't much care for money or social status. He wanted to sit in his room and just read. Good morning, Chris. And his passion for change was so intense and so strong that when he had temperature 125, he couldn't rest, Have you guys ever had a temperature as high as 125, 150 almost? No? Okay. So he would go to Home Depot and he bought like 50 bags of concrete, 80-pound bags. Have you ever lifted 80-pound bag concrete bags? By 60 pounds. They're manageable. He poured 5 hours in the rain concrete in the backyard. He changed. But for that change to continue and to be protected and to be nourished and for that change to survive, a couple of things needed to happen. His wife had to change. She had to stop being a shopaholic. She also had to stop watching TV till 4 in the morning. She also had to take care of her child so that he could go to school early morning. She couldn't do any of that. See, he changed, but the people around him didn't change. So his physical life was not compatible to the way he was changing. He was changing very, very fast. So let me tell you the outcome of his life. His wife is in a nursing home. His child has been depressed in his room for the past 7 years, doesn't come out. He himself was in a coma, came out, now depressed, sits home. This is what happens when, let me give you another example that may be closer to home. Imagine you want to, how old are you? You're old. Let's just say you're 19, you want to continue with your school, but certain things happened and you dropped out, you took a year off, and now you're back. And you want to take school seriously. Okay, well, that's a great thing for you. But your mom is sick, and your dad has just been laid off, and let's just say your brother has some issues. You want to go to school, you want to take 12 units, you want to take 15 units, but you look at your mom and you have emotions. And these emotions tell you, stay home, take care of your mom, take care of your dad, take care of your brother. And all of a sudden you realize, despite the fact that school is good for you, and in fact you do want to go to school and continue with your education, your physical life will not allow it. So what happens is, if you start going to classes, you say, am I being selfish? And so you can't enjoy being in school and you can't enjoy being home. You look at your mom and you say, did you really have to get sick now? Did you have to lose your job now? Why is my brother such a loser? And so you find yourself in two kingdoms, Caesar and God. God, let's just say, is your desire to go to school. But that's not possible. You love your mom, you love your dad, you love your siblings. But none of them are compatible with the changes you want to make to your life. So what happens? You drop school, you take care of your parents, and remember, no good deed ever goes unpunished. Your mom will eventually tell you, you didn't take care of me enough. Okay? So, if you want to continue with school, you either have to crush the emotions that come out of your desire to take care of your parents, which means you have to become callous. And that's very, very difficult. Especially if you happen to be attached, especially if you happen to be an immigrant, in a culture where kids and parents need to have a very strong bond and intimate relationship. You take care of your parents and they take care of you. Okay. So that's what I mean by saying that if your physical life is not compatible to the changes you want to make to your life, you're not going to do much. You love your boyfriend. Good for you. That's great. If he's a drunk, smokes all the time, you love him, but it's not enough. Eventually, he's going to waste your time and your energy and your youth. And your desire to get married, it's just abstract. It's out there. So whatever it is you want to do, you by yourself is not enough. You need an entire village to be on your side. If you don't have that, so good luck. Awareness. I don't know. It's not something that you should pursue. That's all you should know. You should be aware of the things that will benefit you. Going to school will benefit you. Knowing ways to make money will benefit you. Knowing what interest rate you want to pay for your mortgage will interest you. Knowing where you want to live will interest you. I mean, these are things that you need to be interested in and be aware of. Becoming like Plato? No, you don't want to do that. Mahatma Gandhi? No, these are poison to your life. So be aware of where you are, which is you're in America, you're an immigrant. Be cunning, be conniving, be vulturous. Exploit, manipulate, coerce, backstab. When in Rome, do as Romans do. Prosper. And when you come to a different place in your life, when your physical life is to some extent secure, if you want to read the Dialogues of Plato, or you want to be like a Christian, in a real way, whatever that may mean, fine. But for now, you don't need to be aware of the big questions and meaning of life. Don't be that. I'm sorry?
This is a negative awareness.
Well, it depends what you want to be aware of. mean, I don't know what your interests are. My job is in class is to manipulate you, to tell you that the things you're pursuing are just trash. You should become interested in the things I'm interested in. But that's really not fair. You're 20. I'm 60. You need to focus on life. I'm usually focused on death. I mean, when you go to Costco, you want to buy toys. When I go to Costco, I look for coffins. You and I are in Assalamu alaikum. You and I are in two completely different places in life. You should be aware of your age, of the fact that you're an immigrant, that your parents need you. You are their hopes and dreams. This is America. You need to finish school ASAP. Those are the things you need to be aware of. Don't read Karl Marx, Mahatma Gandhi, the Bible, Henry David Thoreau. They're no good for you. Right now, power, money, school. No girlfriend, no boyfriend, no in between. Okay? Just in case you have some gender identity issues, just put them away for now. Okay? You're Noor from Egypt. Finish school. When you have enough power, then whatever. Yeah. Does that? Sure? Don't be a hippie. Alaikum assalam. Yeah.
Going back to the previous question, say you have stage 4 cancer,
Allahu Akbar.
and you're going to chemotherapy every day. And so you're in this routine, you're constantly reminded that you have stage 4 cancer. But then one day, somebody stabs you in the leg, and you're like, I gotta take care of this. I can't go to chemotherapy right now. I have to deal with the leg problem.
Okay.
And you deal with that, and you're out of this routine, and you have to go back and, you're just like, I'm tired of it. Well, I don't want to go back. How do you convince yourself to go back to this mindset that you have this environment that allows you to change?
Forgive me. I think I missed some aspects to your question, but forget them. Just FYI, usually, not all the time, but most often, when people get to stage 4 cancer, there's a part of their organism that readies them for death. In fact, there comes a point where they refuse to eat or drink or do anything. They just want to die. Very much like dogs, when they know they want to die, they simply just walk away, find a tree somewhere, some dark shade, and they just go there and pass out. If you have stage 1 cancer, maybe 2, maybe 3, you still have a good amount of hope, and the doctors will give you hope. My parents visited them a couple days ago. They have a neighbor, very nice man. He just went for a routine checkup, and he was diagnosed with cancer. They want to change the fence, and because my parents and them share the same fence, so they have to share the cost, which is $3,000 for my parents and $3,000 for them. And when my mom asked him, why do you want to change the fence? He says, well, I have stage 4, I'm going to die. I want to make sure that when I go, everything is okay with my wife and my kids. And so you kind of prepare for the ending of your life, making sure that your wife is not as burdened. She's going to be, grieving and all that because you're no longer there, but the practical aspect of life. That the sprinklers are working, the mortgage is going to be paid, maybe the house can be paid off. Things are not falling apart around the house. So this idea of having stage 4 and then being stabbed, usually people who have cancer, stage 4, they can't really walk. They're just home in bed. Unless they're just being stabbed by their wives or husbands or kids because they're just tired of taking care of them. Having said all of that, Yeah. Gnosticism, and then of course what does it mean? Just knowing? Is that what it means? Just knowing. Yeah, that's what Gnosticism means, just knowing. First, you're curious about knowing the things out there, and it's the easiest knowing you can ever do because they're available to your senses. You can see them, touch them, taste them, hear them. And it'll take you some time to kind of see what lives inside the things that you know. Like what gave rise to Picasso's Guernica, Edvard Munch's Scream, or the death of God for Nietzsche. These are all, works of art, but what makes them do that? To sketch in that way, to paint in that way, to write in that way. And you realize some of it has to do with society, some of it has to do with the temperament. And so you kind of take a very scholarly approach. You look at their history, you look at their temperament, and you look at their craft and how proficient they are in their craft. That's one aspect of knowing. The problem with Gnosticism is that they tell you that knowing religion from the books is insufficient. That, forgive me, let's just say that the kingdom of God lives inside you. Well, you know it, fine, great. It's in the books, and for you it's an abstract thing. And like John Calvin, you kind of go around saying, well, I can't really harm anyone out there because as the kingdom of God lives inside me, the kingdom of God also lives inside them. So like Namaste, the God that lives inside me sees the God lives inside you and bows to it. Fine. Then there comes a point in your life where you say, just knowing something abstractly, theoretically, it's okay. It, makes for a great conversation, but it's not enough. What the hell does it mean the kingdom of God lives inside you? And now you have to go through many layers of your own, intellect, your own psyche, your own history, to kind of figure out what exactly that means for you. You're no longer interested in the abstract. You're interested in an idea coming to life inside you. It's kind of like what Soren Kierkegaard had argued in the 19th century. I don't want to believe. I want to have an idea for which I'm willing to sacrifice my life. That's Gnosticism. That it just lives inside you and it oozes out of you. If that's a little too difficult to grasp, go back, if you can stretch your memories back to when you fell in love. Okay? When you and your companion were physically intimate, your body was present, your mind was present, your emotions were present. If you have a soul, I suppose your soul was present. It seems like every different part of you, they're all connected to each other. And so was hers. And then you have this unified human being connecting to this unified human being, and now what you have is magic. That's Gnosticism. Now, sometimes you know things without really being able to express them. It's not coherent when you express it. It's not intelligent when you express it, because you have to kind of fit your knowing, which is experience, feelings, intuition perhaps. You have to put them in a container of this thing called language. And it's very crude. It won't work out. And when you put it in language, the problem is every single one of us in this room connect a different meaning to words. And so when you express your knowing to other people, the only thing it does, it creates division. Unless you had to happen to be someone like James Baldwin or Malcolm X or Mahatma Gandhi or Jesus Christ, where you have so much charisma and so much magnetism that people out there, intellectually they're suspended. Even though they have lots of things to say, they can't vocalize, they can't verbalize, they can't express. They're put on pause. And you have to some extent entrance them. And they sit there, they listen to you as if you have hypnotized them. And then time passes. And then they go home and they talk to their wife or their husband or friends about, say, what you told them. And now they have sobriety of intellect. And what they do is now they pick apart everything that you've said, and biases and prejudices all of a sudden come in, and they twist everything that you say. But if you happen, again, to have enough magnetism and charisma, you give people a sense of knowing, feeling, but can be expressed. I mean, that's what Gnosticism is about.